thanks everybody for being here. We're here to talk about Grow North Farm. Title of our presentation is Growing Roots, Pathways to Success at Grow North Farm. And so my name is Keenan, and I am the Refugee Agriculture Program Coordinator at Catholic Social Services Program, Refugee Assistance and Immigration Services.
And I'm Nick Bachman. I'm an associate at the Anchorage Community Land Trust. Thank you so much for having us. We've been having a really good time at this conference. So Grow North Farm, some folks here might know about the farm, some people might not at all. It's an urban farm, community space, and business incubator in Mountain View here in Anchorage. It's a half-acre cultivated space on a 2-acre property. And also it's here in Anchorage on Denina land. We're speaking from Denina land. It's a space that's cultivated by farmers from around the world of refugee and immigrant background. We just want to acknowledge that, and also acknowledge that we're two white dudes speaking here about this amazing space. We really are honored to be talking about the space and feel very privileged to be talking about it, and are really speaking as allies to the goals of Grow North Farm and not necessarily as leaders there, because as you'll learn, the farmers are definitely leading the way. So we're going to introduce our organizations a bit and talk about 2020 and some of the challenges that were unique to the farm this year and how we navigated that, toward success, and success, really the many meanings of success that are so important to Grow North Farm beyond economics. So I think our title is Economic and Social Impacts. This is a space where success means many things. Probably use that word a lot. Then we'll just give a snapshot of right now and look ahead a bit and hopefully leave some time to talk with y'all.
So before we jump into things, I'll just introduce the organization that I work with, Catholic Social Services here in Anchorage. We're one of the primary social service providers serving Alaskans through a number of agencies. One of those agencies, the one that I work for specifically, is the Refugee Assistance and Immigration Services Program. And we work with newly arrived refugees across the state to help them build their lives here in Alaska. So that's through housing and employment services and cultural orientation, just a lot of those things that people need when they would move to a new place like anyone else. We help provide that for refugee families. My specific role within RAISE, R-A-I-S, is I manage the agriculture program. The agriculture program at RAISE was started in 2007 by a cooperative extension agent named Julie Riley. She started the Fresh International Gardens training program, which was built as a training garden for newly arrived refugees to have a space where they could practice English, where they could learn how to grow vegetables, they could sell those vegetables at market and develop customer service skills that would help them in their further employment. And also all the money that we earn from markets, it goes back to the gardeners working. So also as a way to make some supplemental income. Another part of the agriculture program is teaching health and exercise classes throughout the winter when the gardens are not operating. And we also teach cooking classes where a lot of our clients get to be the teachers and get to cook some really amazing meals in their own cultures and their own traditions and get to share with all of us and really bring their level of expertise to the program. So really the agriculture program is all about using agriculture as an avenue to promote overall health and well-being.
It's pretty awesome. And I'm with the Anchorage Community Land Trust. We're a small nonprofit that started 15 years ago in Mountain View. We use a number of tools to work toward equity and justice and catalyze enterprise and community-led enterprise within economically vulnerable neighborhoods in Anchorage. Our work is within real estate, organizing, neighborhood improvements, and small business support. Within real estate, over the years, we've redeveloped 11 properties to be aligned with communities' interests. Examples of such work are redeveloping an abandoned gas station into the Credit Union 1 building on Mountain View Drive, abandoned furniture warehouse, which is now the Mountain View Service Center, and hosts over 100 workers and local nonprofits. Grow North Farm is also an example of one of these properties. I want to talk about our Set Up Shop program. That's also really a bulk of what we're doing right now. It's a program that works with entrepreneurs and business people who are living or operating in those economically vulnerable neighborhoods in Anchorage. Through that work, we have worked with over 100 food industry entrepreneurs. So that's anybody from people who are aspiring to make their first sales at market or have done a market season, to established businesses, helping with everything from branding to record keeping within TA, and then also with lending and getting capital out into entrepreneurs' pockets. And yeah, so it's an amazing program. And we're just gonna kind of zoom you in from a lot of that programmatic stuff to really what's going on in the ground. So not everyone here is oriented to Anchorage, but here's Anchorage, and here's Mountain View as a neighborhood on the north side of Anchorage. Has about 7,000 residents, and it has incredibly strong food and arts culture. And it's a community that has community members and residents from a wide variety of cultural backgrounds and global heritages. That diversity of global backgrounds and the Alaskan food traditions that have been here for thousands of years really contribute to that food and arts culture. It's important to recognize, so rezoning, a lack of investment, and systemic racism have played a large part in some of the developmental patterns in Mountain View Drive. And because of that, there have been commercial spaces that have been abandoned or fallen into disrepair. So a large part of our work is to be working with the community to address some of the blight and work toward having authentic leadership within the community. So Grow North Farm, here we are. This is right on Mountain View Drive. Again, a tight residential area. There are multiple schools and grocery stores and community spaces within a walking distance of Mountain View Drive, or sorry, of Grow North Farm. And we just wanted to give you a snapshot. So we redeveloped the space, bought it in 2005 as John's RV. It was a vacant and blighted RV space, RV lot, and we're looking for the right investor to invest in a way that was aligned with the Mountain View community plan. With a stagnant commercial real estate economy, we kind of took matters into our own hands and hosted a farmers market on the space for 3 years before developing the formal partnership with Catholic Social Services and Raise to create Grow North Farm. So I think we got another cool shot. Yeah, this one.
Yeah, so here, just a shot of Grow North Farm to give you an idea of what we're talking about. So there are about 10 different operations on site, and we like to say 10 operations, 10 languages. Their farmers here at Grow North Farm are from all over the world, and it's a really beautiful thing to be at the farm and still get to communicate in like everyone's shared language, which is broken English. It's a lot of fun and provides for some really amazing conversation. The plot sizes average about 20 by 80, and there's a shared wash area on site. And it's not in this picture. This is from 2019, but this year we had a cold room for the first time, courtesy of a lot of community donors that came together and donated enough money for us to have some cold storage on site, which was a huge impact on the farm. Many of the farmers recognize that as one of the biggest improvements from our first year to our second year, was having that cold storage on site. We have a farm stand that operates outside the fence that sells 5 days a week from 2 to 7. So our farmers really like that access to be able to sell every day, and it's neat for the community to be able to come out and get fresh produce throughout the week. And at the farm, this is the setup that we had this year. It's apt to change next year. Things are pretty fluid at the farm. And also another thing to point out that all the businesses operating on site have other growing spaces around Anchorage. So this is not all the cultivating space that farmers have, but it is kind of the hub of their operations. I want to highlight one space here to the Global Garden. Here's where we like to experiment with some different cultural crops that our farmers have come to us and said, hey, can we try to grow this? One thing that's pretty fun that we've had some success with is a certain varietal of amaranth. And depending where you're from, you'll call it dodo or quintonil or palangi. and it's really tasty vegetable that we can't even get outside of the fence to sell because all of the farmers on site buy it before it even makes it outside the fence. So we're excited to continue some of that crop exploration in future years.
So we just threw a lot at the screen and everybody behind screens. But that's Grow North kind of in a nutshell from the operational standpoint. If you have any additional questions, we could throw them in the chat after or connect later. Right now, we want to talk about some of the challenges and opportunities from 2020. I can take this.
Yeah.
All right. So in 2020, you know, COVID, everything else, really crazy. I'm not going to just sit here and talk about how crazy it was, but I do want people to understand the differences in this experience so far if you're an English language learner and new to the United States. A lot of that means many of our farmers don't have driver's licenses as well. So with the public transit disruptions, some farmers were walking quite a bit to the farm or doing other things to make it work. And everything going digital, though it's, you know, allowed us to have this presentation and conference go really fluidly, and, you know, might have paved the way for Summer or some of the other amazing speakers from across the continent to be talking with us today. But that has been quite a challenge on the ground at Grow North Farm. But, you know, we've navigated it, and honestly, the farmers have navigated it in an amazing way, and we're really excited to report how much fun we had this year.
Yeah, so these are some of our different sales avenues that we explored this year. A lot of it was, you know, due to COVID. I think a lot of farmers and producers around the state, you know, early in the spring when we all started going to lockdown, were thinking about other sales opportunities outside of traditional avenues like farmers markets. So here's just a list of some of the different sales avenues we went with this year. I'm just going to highlight some of them. The food pantry, thanks to some more really generous community donors, we had a fundraiser called Give Local, Grow Local, and raised over $7,000. That allowed us to buy vegetables from our farmers to then donate to the Catholic Social Services St. Francis House Food Pantry once a week. Very similar to the TILF program that we learned about yesterday, operating with a lot of farmers in the valley. So we had kind of like a mini TILF program here in Anchorage that was really successful, really doubled the impact of our vegetables. We also piloted a CSA this year through our Fresh International Gardens training program. And so that one was really focused through FIG, and then the online weekly box sales was similar model to the CSA, except it was a week-to-week sign up, and that was more farmer-led. So a lot of our farmers actually at Grow North Farm were providing the vegetables for that box. It really provided them an opportunity to learn about different sales avenues. We had some hot food to go on site, which was a great way to have COVID safe events on the site, and, you know, bring more people there, not only to get some hot food to go, but to boost sales at the farm stand. And then we also had some wholesale relationships with restaurants this year, including one partner that we really like to highlight, Alaska Seeds of Change. We provided lots of, you know, root vegetables and cabbages and other things that they can't grow in their hydroponic facility for their fermented and pickled product line, Evie's Brinery. So really awesome to get to work with them. But yeah, really cool thing to highlight about all these opportunities, sales avenues this year. We learned how each one really benefited the other one. So for example, like having this weekly CSA where people could come and pick up their vegetable box also boosted sales at the farm stand, because, you know, they'd look in the box and say, oh, I didn't get cilantro this week, but I, you know, want cilantro for a meal. So then they go to the farm stand and buy it from another farmer. So it's really neat to see how each sales area helped the other sales area grow. And you'll see in our next number that really boosted sales overall.
Yeah, so it turned out to be a pretty big year with these different avenues. Maybe you can see in the chart, farmers markets really led the way. The farmers did an absolutely amazing job really getting out to market and navigating the challenges of 2020. And I think within all of this, like, we could talk and get in the weeds here, but what we really want to drive home is that We think about the impact of this number. There's just so much going on beyond the 75,000 and really within each sale that occurs. We want to make sure we can do our best to make sure that this food is getting into the hands of neighbors and those in need and vulnerable population members in the community and around Anchorage. And then also within these sales, developing kind of new relationships and new opportunities and exposure to new ideas. It's like the weekly box wasn't our biggest sales driver, but this was an amazing way for us to introduce a whole new style of sales to farmers who had pretty much until now relied on farmers market sales. So this diversity of avenues has allowed us to accommodate kind of a diversity of definitions of success within operations.
We're proud of that.
I just learned animations yesterday.
So yeah, just some metrics of success that we wanted to highlight in here. I'd like to just take an opportunity to storytell a bit, mainly around the CSA, some of the successes that we looked at and found really beneficial for the for people and for the program in general. For example, like every week we would have some of our farmers, specifically some newly arrived refugees who have been here for less than 6 months, would get to sit down at a table and practice writing. And they would write what vegetables are in each box. And so it's really like, going to class every day while still providing vegetables for the CSA box. So really huge learning opportunity there. And then also the CSA provided an amazing opportunity for farmers to get to interact with the larger Anchorage community. One thing that I like to highlight is one of our CSA members works with the Anchorage School District, and throughout the summer, she would come to the farm every week to pick up her box, and she would talk to one of our farmers who has a number of kids in the school district, and she would get to tell our farmer like what is going on, like their constant COVID policy changing, like how to get your students enrolled in school, what to do if you don't have internet, how to access a laptop if you don't have one. So the CSA allowed her to get to meet a community member that could help her out with a lot of these things that otherwise she wouldn't know, or she wouldn't have access to a lot of that information. So it's a really amazing example of how the farm and how just different sales avenues can help our farmers beyond just their vegetable sales, but really with their family and just with their life. And so really what it's all about is just building community and giving our farmers an opportunity to integrate further and network more with community members.
So we thought, we just continue with 2 more stories of 2 more farmer businesses and explaining that these differences in what success means. So YB Rana Family Nepali Foods. This is Yad and Manuka, husband and wife, and they have 2 young children they just had an amazing 2020 through it all. Last year was their first year at market, and this year they just kind of hit the ground running. More gardens, more ways to sell, and even trying new markets at the end of the year. They tried out selling at South Anchorage Farmers Market. They are an incredibly action-oriented business and are having a lot of fun and kind of building passion around sharing their foods and growing their business. And a lot of our role is honestly just like keeping the lights on, helping them navigate a lot of the bureaucratic systems and permits, and making sure they're keeping it compliant essentially. I would just say look out for them next year. At the end, we'll give you our mailing list and everything to know how to follow some of these businesses.
Yeah, another business we want to highlight is Rainbow Produce. This is one of our more experienced farmers, and she's affectionately known as the Garden Baron of Anchorage because she has gardens all over, from different municipal community garden plots to backyards and everything in between. The one thing that she talked about this year was just how crazy it was. She had so many plots, and that's just a lot of growing spaces to keep up with and a lot of vegetables to process. So one thing looking ahead to next year that she's mentioned is wanting to find a way to kind of streamline her operations and help things like slow down a bit and be easier for her. So that's one thing that we try to do a lot is to work with each farmer to define like what success means to them, and for this farmer that means, kind of slowing down and not necessarily producing more vegetables or making more money, but just making things more manageable. And another thing that we like to highlight about this business is that, this farmer at the beginning of the year actually donated some money to the farm beyond her normal lease fee because she, wanted some money to go to the farm for future years. And that's something we feel, really proud to talk about because it shows that, again, the success is beyond, just the people's individual business, but it shows that the farm is sustained by the community it's meant to support. And I think that's the biggest, thing that keeps us going and that shows us that we're on the right track.
Back already? Wow.
And then looking ahead, we just kind of want to give a snapshot of where we are and what we're looking forward to. So right now we're in the thick of a setup shop class with the farmers. Monday, we're going to have our third class where we're going to be sharing out goals. It's probably going to be a really fun class that farmers have developed in the off season, coming right off of the agriculture season. And we'll be working with people. Some goals are taking WIC and SNAP at every market, having better branding, certifying their cottage foods, trying new markets. So these are all little things that we do really to just try to keep the lights on and keep this operation moving forward and keep the leadership and ownership in the farmers' hands. We're also fortunate to be in a spot where we have gotten a keen understanding of some of the food ecosystem environment in Alaska and Anchorage, and we're looking forward to, from a policy perspective, addressing some of these barriers with cottage food or WIC are some of the amazing things that people who know a lot more about it have talked about during this presentation. It's really, really enlivening to be surrounded by allies in the Alaska food system. I don't think I've met a single person that's working on this that doesn't want it to go in a shared direction. That is beautiful. And then, yeah, things might look a little different. New farmers next year, we'll see. So we wanted to wrap this up with a little bit of an ask to the audience. We thought a good bit about what this would mean. And really some of it, not as a plug, but it comes down to like visiting the farm and seeing what's going on the ground, and getting to know not just the farmers here, but getting to know your farmers. And we think about that in a way that's like, we are leading this presentation right now, and we're honored and love doing this, but we want to be thinking about ways that we can be meeting the farmers where they are, because the amount that we present, they know 100 times more about food and agriculture than us and have some of the most amazing ideas for where things could head, and bring skills from, frankly, around the world and things that we could all really learn from. So getting to know your farmers and thinking of ways that we can be inviting each other into more spaces for learning. And then, yeah.
And within that, exploring your own metrics of success and being open to new opportunities to challenge, what you define as success for yourself. I think it's something we feel often have a great privilege to be able to be at the farm every day and get to learn from people from all over the world who have different perspectives and different beliefs and different ideas of what success is. And yeah, we have a really great opportunity to be able to learn from them every day that challenges, our own ideas. So we just wanted to encourage all of you to find those same opportunities for diversity and listening and learning in your own communities and in your own food systems as well. So then lastly, just wanted to highlight a cookbook that Refugee program has put out. Next slide. Yeah, I'll throw that into the chat. But we are coming out with a cookbook highlighting recipes from Alaska's refugee community. It's on sale right now, pre-order, so please check out the link and go get the book.
And stay in touch, follow us, do whatever.
Put it in another, oh yeah,
stop the screen share. That's what we've got. We'll try to bring it back to.
Yeah, if anyone has questions, feel free to jump on the mic or into the chat.
Yeah, we got a few minutes. This is Brian. Great talk, guys. I try to gather all the sites that said Grow North Farm, and hopefully someone can save the chat. I can't remember what AFPC is doing about that, but they have definitely they're recording everything. I guess I should have mentioned that if you didn't want to be recorded, I should have asked them.
Oh yeah, thanks, Brian.
Yeah, no. Let me open it up then for people. You can unmute yourself and ask questions. We got a couple minutes. Go.
Well, also, oh, sorry. Go ahead. We could answer some things in the chat that you see now. Back to the chat. The food in the picture, I think, Heidi, I don't know if you're referring to the samosas or the white meat.
And then something being yellow being poured out of a pitcher.
Yeah, a mango lassi.
Wow. Yeah, that's great.
Thanks, Nick. Nick, yours was really, really good too.
When do you open in the spring?
The farm stand are usually open right around World Refugee Day, which is around June 19th. So that's kind of been our consistent opening day. Yeah.
Well, maybe we'll throw a Mother's Day market together. We were going to do that this year.
Yeah, I think I don't know if he's highlighted enough, but yeah, this is just year 2 at Grow North Farm, so there's still a lot of figuring things out that that we're doing, and yeah, so learning every year.
Yeah, and so yeah, so inspired by the other people doing work here.
Serious shout out to all the organizers and other presenters that have been part of this food festival and conference. Just an amazing opportunity to gather all these minds and ideas together. So yeah, huge shout out to everybody involved.
How does it work managing all these different farmers and all the resources that you need, like on-site water, compost, all of that kind of stuff?
It's ever evolving. We have like a partly grant supported, partly like income from our nonprofits and partly income from the farm leases to manage some of the basic costs. Composting is one that is continually evolving. I don't think we have a perfect solution there. As if anyone else has experience with community compost and tricks for success, or maybe we should just hire Nick.
Also, even in like things like the cookbook, I mean, a lot of the income from the cookbook is going to go towards supporting the farm operations. And I think that's something that we're working on, is trying to find other revenue sources to help, as Nick mentioned in the presentation, like keep the lights on. But yeah, a lot of collaboration too, just between Anchorage Community Land Trust and between Catholic Social Services and the Refugee Program. That really keeps things moving.
Yeah, I don't know if this even perfectly answers the question, but worth addressing. We played the strength of each organization, and that's really, really important. Like recognizing our lanes,
collaboration,
and yeah. We should throw our emails or something in there. Mm-hmm. That might be it on time, unless anyone has questions.
Yeah, we're right at the switch over. I'm looking for the next speaker. Amy, are you on? Oh, there's three Amy. There's three Amy's, but not the right one. Amy Pettit. Amy Pettit in the room.
Oh, Amy.
Yeah, there was a substitution because one of the fisheries talks was happening during the fisheries panel, and that speaker wound up doing a pechakucha. So we're just going to keep this continuing. I think I'm going to grant you the floor, gentlemen, until Amy shows up. If she does, I don't know what happened. This morning she was doing yoga and her TV blew up or something. There was something weird that happened. It's in the recording. So I don't know if she had some other situation, because now there was a couple of earthquakes north of Anchorage this morning too. So yeah, did you feel any shakes here? I see your jars are on the shelf, but they're not knocked over, so it wasn't too bad, right?
Yeah, we are not the most earthquake ready house, I'm saying.
Okay, well, yeah, I think
our speakers are up there.
Okay, cool. So, audience, if you have more questions, you know, we're live here, and the guys here are ready to answer questions, troubleshoot. You know,
I have a question.
Go for it, Joni.
So, how much of a lease charge is there for your growers?
Yeah, so we're doing the first year farmers pays $60, and then second year farmers $80, and then third year $100, and then it's capped at $100.
And that's the only fee they pay. There isn't a percentage of their sales other than that?
Not at this point. Yeah, there's, and ideally we can try to keep it in a way that does stay good. The farmers have honestly expressed, like, there have been times when, like, we had our lock cut at one point and people were just like, we can all just pay some money.
Yeah, that's, the farmers are really keen on investing in the space because they see the benefit for themselves and their businesses. So yeah, they're very willing contributors, and yeah.
And they're buying amendments and additional compost.
So is the only thing that you provide is water? Do you provide any equipment or anything else?
We
have wheelbarrows and shovels and things that came from, honestly, from a lot of just in-kind community donations.
The cold room.
Yeah, refrigeration. But they have a lot of their own, like, bins for harvesting, but we did provide some extra bins. But yeah,
we kind of have like the bare bones for somebody if you were able to go in and everyone buys their own seeds, but then like we help people orient towards seed catalogs, and probably we'll do some bulk buying next year.
I think it's important to keep in mind that a lot of the businesses at Grow North Farm were operating before we opened the farm. Maybe not a lot, some of them were. So they've been doing this just like on their own hustle for a bit. And so Grow North Farm has just provided like more of a hub and a place to kind of, you know, operate their business out of. At least for some were like brand new when they started at Grow North Farm, but others have been kind of doing the hustle for a little bit.
And within that, I think, or please go ahead.
No, I just said thanks. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I think within that, that's an important highlight of our approach. Like, we're not trying to do anything out of thin air or say, oh, you should try this because it's good for the community or anything like that. It's like people are like, hey, we need more ag space where we can sell food, and we said, okay, let's do it.
Okay, I see Amanda Walsh has raised her hand. Would you like to unmute yourself? You have. Go ahead and speak.
Yep, sure. Hi, guys. Thanks so much for the presentation. It was great. I love hearing what's going on. I'm an assistant professor at the University of Alaska Anchorage in dietetics nutrition department. We do some work, some help with the Catholic Social Services, and it was really great to hear this. And I just wanted to show my face and say hello because I'll contact you. We have, you know, numbers of students that are always looking for different projects or things that they could do within the community to, you know, offer their time and expertise, but also it helps them to get a master's program degree. And so I think there's probably opportunities for collaboration in this small piece of it. And so I wanted to say hi, say thank you, and I'll be in contact with you to see if that would be a possibility in the future.
Thanks so much, Amanda. And that's like within success, that's really what we're trying to work toward, is to create those opportunities. We had a youth intern this year and have a student working with us right now. And we would love for that connection and any other connection to try to get more folks involved.
Okay, let me just go ahead, and then I'll cut in after you're done, Amanda.
I'm sorry, I was just saying thank you, and I will be in touch.
Okay.
Sounds good. Thanks, Amanda.
The lead organizers have said that Amy Pettit is in the room. Amy, I don't see you on the list. If you're there, fire away. You're
honored sharing space.
I don't see her in my Zoom link, so stay right where you are, guys. I don't know what's going on with this technology. It's pretty great. Oh, Amy Pettit is heading in. She had the wrong Zoom link. Okay. Well, thank you.
We could do Alaska Farmland Trust. Probably. No, not at all.
No.
Well,
Sorry.
thank you,
Sorry.
thank you,
about
Nick
that,
and Keenan. That's great stuff. We're gonna go with Amy, I think, as she
Good call.
materializes in our Zoom. Keep up the fine work. We'll be in touch.
All right.
Thank you all.
I would love to hear Nick and Keenan's version of my story. It's probably a better story.
Welcome, Amy. The floor
Hi.
is yours.
Sorry
And
about
that's okay. It's all cool. You're doing great. How's your TV doing?
My TV still hasn't come back on, but it stopped playing the random elevator music. So I don't know. I don't know.
Everyone, Amy Pettit is here. She was a late substitution because somebody who was in the slot had a conflict with another fisheries panel going on. So that was moved over and Amy graciously stepped into the slot. And so you're on. Good.
All right,
Thank you.
perfect. I'm gonna attempt to share my screen. Let's see where I'm headed. Let's see here. We'll stop that for a second. Make sure this is open. This is where I'm headed. Okay. There we go. Sorry for the delay. Glad that you guys got a little bit of extra time with the other guys. Let's do it this way. So, Brian, if you can give me a thumbs up that you guys can see that screen, or a voice or something. Anybody? Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, so as Brian mentioned, I was kind of a late substitute in. For those of you that don't know, I've been a member of the Alaska Food Policy Council, or was a member of the governing board around the time of inception up until just a couple of years ago. I removed myself from the board. I still actively participate in the legislative subcommittee. Or advocacy, I think it's called. But anyways, my name is Amy Pettit. I'm the executive director of Alaska Farmland Trust. And I have to tell you guys, I have been involved in the Alaska agriculture industry for 15 years, since 2005 when I moved to Alaska. And I worked for 10 years for the State Division of Agriculture. And never in my 15 years of giving presentations and speaking to groups and attending conferences and all of this, never once have I changed my presentation based on a presentation involved at the conference. I've never done that before, but I have been so moved by the last couple of days. I've been crying all day, for the record, just because of the momentous things that are happening in our world today, starting with the earthquake at 3:30 this morning, right? I feel like that earthquake had to wake us all up to let us know that something big was about to happen. But I changed my presentation around a couple of times today because I've just been really inspired and moved by the things that I've seen, starting with the Gather movie Thursday night. If you did not get a chance to watch that movie, I beg of you, if you do nothing else, spend the $5 on iTunes or Amazon Video and watch that movie, because it was so, I, for lack of a better word, I think it changed my life. And I don't mean that lightly. This work that I do at Farmland Trust has a certain angle to it. And that movie and other things that have happened in the world recently have made me really pause and go, am I doing the right thing? And I'll just leave it at that. But I have really stopped. And those words that were in that movie, that it's time for a restoration revolution, just, wow. I really feel that. I really feel that. So I also was really moved by Summer this morning. And this slide is in regards to that. Summer let us all know how we need to remind other people of who we're from and where we're from and our people. So starting in the top left corner, these are my parents, and this is my wedding day in 2004. And we're standing on my family's farm in Southern Oregon, and both of my parents are gone now. They both left entirely too soon, but what a big, obvious part of my life they were, and that's Mike and Mary Knapp. And if you can see the side eye that I'm giving, my dad just said something wildly inappropriate. My mom is not impressed, and neither am I, but my dad was known for that. Moving to the right, those are my amazing daughters, and my dog Dirk. You see him in my life a lot if you follow me on social media. He's a big part of my everyday. He's at my lap right now as I sit here. He was in yoga this morning and yesterday as well. But those are my daughters, Abby Jane and Lila May, and they influence every single decision that I make every single day. The future is female, and it's those two right there for me. And circling down around to the left bottom corner, that is the man in my life, Jesse. And he's a big part of every day of my life as well. And I just want to honor that and that space. So thank you to Summer for that inspiration this morning. I won't spend too much more time before I kind of jump right in to my presentation, but some other things that really spoke to me today in other people's presentations. Earlier today, Dune, I don't even remember the title of the presentation. It was a panel by multiple presenters, and Dune used the words, if it's not regenerative, don't do it. And that has really been resonating with me all day long, you know, thinking about this cultural revolutionaries and this restoration revolution and who farms matters. And I just have been just rolling around with all of these thoughts. Very powerful for me. I also wanted to share with you all one of my favorite books. It's called Letters to a Young Farmer. It's by the Stone Barns Center for Food and Agriculture. I have so many highlighted pages and bookmarks and things in this book. One thing that I envision someday in the future is an Alaskan version of this book. I would love an Alaskan version of this book. But for 15 years, as I've been introducing myself to audiences that I speak to or to new people, I always say that I would be the 5th generation of my family on the property that we're standing on there in that wedding photo. I always say that I would be the 5th generation of my family to raise high quality beef cattle on the Southern Oregon coast. And I've always been so very proud of that. That's who I am. That's who I came from. But I am going through a bit of a revolution. And one of the things that has always spoken to me from this book, from the first time that I read it, and it's a letter from Raj Patel. And he says in this book, he says, before white people came to this land, it belonged to no one, for there was no property in land before conquest. Before white people shackled Africans to this land, cash agriculture had yet to be invented. If you have title to the ground on which you stand, you traffic in stolen goods. So that has been speaking to me for months. I mean, well, for more than that. I think I bought this book right when it came out in the, it's been a couple of years since it came out. Anyway, that line has been speaking to me. 2017, this book was published. And I've thought about that, like about my whiteness and about holding title to stolen goods. So, and now with these last couple of days, the movie Gather, the presentations that I've been watching, my sentiments are changing, and I think that's powerful. We're not here to always be sedentary, and we're meant to change and you know, see things differently. So I want everyone that's here with me today to know that that is happening for me big time. Alaska Farmland Trust, we are a 501c3 nonprofit based out of Palmer, Alaska. Our goal, our mission is to permanently protect the agriculturally viable soils across this state. To date, we have worked with 7 landowners and protected just over 380 acres, mostly in the greater Palmer area. I think most of you are familiar with that. I do want to say that I'm an exhibitor in the conference these last couple of days, and this is the t-shirt. I mentioned that if you go visit my booth in the ether space, there's a free t-shirt giveaway, and I'm wearing that t-shirt. So I'd love to give away many, many of these shirts. So go visit my booth and I'll get you a free t-shirt. Our role is to secure, promote, and educate. That's what Farmland Trust does. Those are the 3 pillars of what we do. We permanently protect land, we promote this industry, and we try to educate as many people as possible about Alaska's agriculture industry. I'm going to take the next 11 minutes to show you this video, and we'll see. I'm going to have to, I think, jump out of here and jump over here and hit play. And Brian, work with me here to let me know if this still works for you guys. Am I still screen sharing?
I see a screen, I hear music, but I don't see the vid.
But you don't see the video. Okay.
You may have to stop sharing and then reshare with the new screen.
Okay, let's try that.
And then when you do that, make sure you check the 2 boxes at the bottom of the screen, share the optimize for video and share computer sound.
Okay.
Thank you, other Amy.
It's so good to have multiple Amy's around, isn't it? Okay. I'm not sure why it's not show.
Well, I have put the link in the chat in case things go totally 86.
Okay. Let's see if I can get there. If there's a will, there's a way, right? Oh, now I have completely lost all the screens. Well, let's see. I click the 2 boxes, but it's not coming up as a screen that I can share. I'll try again.
Do you have it open on your desktop already?
I do. I've got it open right there. Come back to me. There we go. And I'll click both of the boxes and let's try this again.
It's sharing. Thinking about it.
Yeah, now it wants a password from me, which I'm like, okay, what might that password be? Let's see.
Oh,
Yep. Okay, here we go.
What I was told over the years is my dad and his brother Owen started farming here in that section down there in December of 1945. Started milking cows, and back at that time it was between the colony house and the barn was trees. Probably the best recollection I have is picking roots. That was my first job that I really remember, that for hours and hours and hours clearing land. And my father started purchasing land around him. At one time they had right at 1,000 acres. Now it's down to right around 450 acres. Looks a whole lot different now.
We were kids and loved to come to the farm because it was so amazing to me to see all the animals and the baby calves. And when I was in high school, I actually applied and was hired on the farm. So I worked for Tracy's dad.
I mean, this is Palmer. I think what makes this community are these family farms and their interactions with the community, and the fact that they're feeding us and they participate in the community. And I just think that's particularly beautiful, and that's what makes this place so special.
One of the main things, especially in the restaurant business, is about quality. And you have to take a stand about what quality means to you. And to me, as a chef, it all starts with where it comes from. At our facilities, local food is part of our identity, and that was something that we chose at the beginning. And the connection that we have to the community and having the community understand where we're sourcing our food has been part of our organic growth over years.
We sell a lot of it local to people right here, but we sell both beef and pigs to 49th State Brewing Company in Anchorage as our main buyer.
There's nothing more real than saying I source my food from a farm, and you can literally drive out here and see where it comes from. You can sit there and meet the farmers, and to me, that trust and honesty is something I wanted to bring into our business, and that's why the relationship with Moffett Farms is so important to me.
You know, Alaska has a very, very tiny portion of our topography is suitable for agriculture, and that's going to be soil, it's going to be water, and it's going to be climate. And when you look at the vastness that is Alaska, we all think it's a huge state. But those key components that make agriculture viable are actually very, very tiny. They're a fraction of a percent. Over half of Alaska's population center is within driving distance of this farm. The food security of over half the state could come right from this farm. That's over 400,000 people right now in Alaska. That's huge.
Our identity as a company is directly linked to these farmers in Alaska. Part of Moffett is part of our identity, but also the quality of the products that I'm using in the restaurant are directly linked to the knowledge that is shared with the farmer and myself, and how these animals eat, how they're taken care of. And the real thing that I would say is your palate doesn't lie, and it's all in the taste.
The saying is fresher by far, and you have no idea until you have a zucchini from right down the road, and the difference that it makes versus something that you've bought from the store that's traveled up here for 2 weeks. It's unreal.
Everybody should want to have food available locally, and everybody, without question, benefits from the community that these family farms create. You know, the agricultural importance of this place is tremendous, not just to Palmer, but to all of South Central. I mean, they're feeding a lot of people.
The biggest threat, I think, is just making enough money to keep the farm viable, to keep the land in production. Working with Alaska Farmland Trust to put this 95 acres into the trust would allow us to build some infrastructure for the farm for the future.
It's a historic farm to Palmer, and the importance to the community to preserve this. You know, I just can't imagine losing this.
Losing Moffett Farms would be something that I don't even want to think about. It's something that we talked about before, is the concept of losing a farm. But the reality is we need to help those farmers, not just by me purchasing, but also with other support to make sure that we can look at the generations to come.
This farm's feeding people, and certainly in the year 2020 with the pandemic, there's never been a more important time to preserve and protect these food-producing pieces of land. And this is one of them that's been doing it for many, many generations.
If we're not able to complete this deal with the Moffats, my understanding is that, they'll be forced to sell at least a portion of this to a developer, and the next step, I'm sure, would be a subdivision.
And it's more than just beauty and community. It's also food security. We need to think about that and preserving the lifestyle of farming. More and more acreage across the United States is being gobbled up by development, and we're not anti-development, but we don't need more strip malls and we don't need more gravel pits. We do need a reliable food source.
It's not that we don't want people to live in the valley, it's just that it doesn't have to be on this piece of ground with this much productive soil.
Well, I think eventually we would have to sell some property to a developer, to somebody for housing or whatever, and eventually that's where we would have to go. So.
I don't think we'd have any other choice.
Yeah. The legacy of this farm, we would love to just keep it as a Moffat farm and keep it an open space. We've done everything we can do not to develop the property.
We recognize that when you do, it's gone forever.
Farmland Trust needs everyone's help to preserve this. It helps us do what we do with farmers to secure the properties and make sure that they don't get developed and go away forever. So by helping them, by you helping Alaska Farmland Trust help them, we preserve it so it will not be a strip mall or a gravel pit. It will stay in farming for perpetuity.
Yeah, all we ask of sustaining members is $10 a month. Of course, we would love more, but to protect this place and to keep this sense of community, to keep the food coming out of this area, I think it's a pretty fair trade.
Because usually the farmers are farmers. They're not the bankers, they're not the packaging or processing place. And so to find a relationship with the Moffats that we found is so prized that it's literally helping define our identity as a restaurant group in Alaska, and we want to see that flourish for years to come.
Working with Alaska Farmland Trust, so that just looked like an absolute win for us. Still farm the property, but get some of the value out of the property, so you're not selling it, for subdivision for your retirement.
Contribute, become a member of the Alaska Farmland Trust, sign up as a sustaining member. I think that's probably the most impactful thing you can do. You don't have a lot of pieces of property that are of this size. The food security of over half the state could come right from this farm.
Whether it's growing peonies or whether it's animals or whether it's hay or a goat farm, our dream has always been if they want a farm, it's here. And, you have to keep trying to protect it.
Quite a beautiful video there, Amy. Thank you so much for sharing that. And again, if people missed some of the video, the link is in the chat.
Yeah.
I just want to let you know we're almost ready for the next talk. How many more minutes would you like?
I can do the rest in like just 2 minutes. I'm just going to buzz through these couple of last slides really quick.
Good.
Secure, that's what that video is talking about, is the secure side of Farmland Trust. Like I mentioned, the other two pillars of what we do are promote and educate. And so these slides are things that you guys have seen before. The number of Alaska farms grew 30% over the past 5 years. We're leading the nation in new farmers. We're leading the nation in small farms, less than 10 acres. Value of food sold directly to consumers grew from 2.2 million to 4.5 million. We know those numbers are low, but our industry is thriving. 47% of our farmers are female. We love that statistics. I know I don't have any time for questions, but I'm around. I'm on Whova. I'm available via chat, etc. And if you are interested in becoming a Farmland Trust sustaining member, there's multiple ways to give, multiple ways to donate. You can actually even text to donate. But I appreciate you guys taking the time to join me here today. And I'm sorry for the technical difficulties and that I was late. But thank you guys so much. I'm done, Brian.
Oh, you're very, very welcome, Amy, and what a great addition to the program. I mean, this is just spectacular. Did you want to mention really quick about your radio show, Ag Matters? Just because I don't know if anyone knows about that, but I just tuned in, and thanks for promoting AFPC's conference. I think it got a little bit more listens.
You bet, sure. So one of the ways that my goal of educating the public is through my radio show Ag Matters, and it airs weekly on Radio Free Palmer, and it is rebroadcast on 2 different stations, one in Talkeetna, one down on the peninsula. They pick a show a month to rebroadcast. All of the shows are archived on the Radio Free Palmer website, and I just realized that coming up this month I will have been on the air for 4 years, weekly for 4 years. So there's a lot of great shows covering farmers, farm businesses, chefs, anybody that's remotely related to food production in this state, I try to have on the show. So if you're interested in being a guest at some point, let me know and take a listen to the old shows. I think it's really fun stories. That's what I like to do, is help people tell their stories.
Yeah, it's all about storytelling. And I put your radio show link in the chat. So anyone who wants to see Radio Free Palmer, which sounds like a takeoff of REM's Radio Free Europe. All right. Well, thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure having you in this session. So now in the remaining half hour, we have a speaker coming up. I hope I don't mash the name. Anama Shannon. Is that right? Did I get it right?
That's right.
Shoo, you're on, and you're coming out of you're coming out of Nome, right?
That's right, and I have a co-presenter, Amanda Tordall.
Great. Oh, how's the weather in Nome? We just heard from Annabelle and Kotzebue that it really got hit with some wintry weather.
Yeah. Yep. We've seen it so far, but it's getting better.
Okay, well, you have the last half hour of this session, and please continue.
Okay, can you hear me as well?
Yes, can hear and see a beautiful logo and a really nice background.
Wonderful. Okay, great.
That is not Nome today.
No, not Nome today.
Or neither during the annual dog sled race, really.
No. Okay. So good afternoon, everyone. This is Amanda Tordall speaking, coming from Nome, Alaska, and just want to say hi and thank you so much, Alaska Food Policy Council, everyone, all the organizers and sponsors and everyone for putting this on and accepting our presentation abstract. This entire conference has been super inspiring and enlightening, and I've learned so much already. So thank you so much. Let's go here. All right, Anama.
Hi, everybody. My name is Anama Shannon. My parents are Linda and Lincoln Saito, and I'm speaking to you from Inuit Nunat, or the land of the Inuit, up here in Nome, Alaska. I'm the Environmental Program Director at Coeric Incorporated, which is our native nonprofit corporation here in Nome. And I'm co-presenting and colleague with Amanda Tordall, and she's going to introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Amanda Tordall. Also speaking to you from Nome, Alaska, up in the Bering Strait region, homeland and waters to the Nupiaq, Yupik, and St. Lawrence Island Yupik people. So thank you, and just really acknowledge them. And I love having the privilege of living and working up here. Been in Nome almost 5 years, so I'm fairly new to Alaska. I'm originally from Iowa, and I'm new to the Pilgrim Hot Springs position. Before that, I was the energy development specialist at Coeric, and so my background's a little more recently in energy, sustainable energy, and before that I was really more involved in marketing, communications, and journalism. So that's a little bit of my background, but I'm really excited to be involved in this project that we're going to tell you a little bit about. So Unatuk is the organization that I work for. I work for Coeric technically, but Coeric is a co-owner of Unatuk LLC, and Unatuk is a consortium of 7 different organizations in the Bering Strait region. So Bering Straits Native Corporation, Coeric, Norton Sound Economic Development Corporation, Mary's Igloo Native Corporation, White Mountain Native Corporation, Sitnasak Native Corporation, and Council Native Corporation. So all of these owners have a board representative, and we are managed by a board of directors that put together the vision for Pilgrim Hot Springs. They own the property Pilgrim Hot Springs to be a protected Arctic oasis that provides for our people. And their mission is to promote the well-being of our people through the sharing, protecting, and responsibly developing the resources of Pilgrim Hot Springs. So that is the organization that I serve, and I serve at the pleasure of this board.
For those of you who don't know where Nome is, if you look at the left-hand side picture, you'll see that we're up in the northwest, and we have 20 different tribes within 16 communities. So you can see the Seward highlighted there. If you look at the right-hand picture, you'll see where Nome is on the coast, and Pilgrim Hot Springs is inland, about 60 miles north.
All right, and to share a little bit of background on Pilgrim Hot Springs, it has a very unique and interesting history, a more recent history, but of course we want to acknowledge since time immemorial, this has been Coermiut land, the land of the Coeric people. More specifically, the native village of Mary's Igloo was located just upriver from Pilgrim Hot Springs site, and their ancestors used the site for wellness activities, subsistence activities, and is very important to them. And more recent history, since the Nome Gold Rush, the Homestead Act allowed this parcel of land to be homesteaded. This is the only homestead in the Pilgrim, or in the Seward Peninsula, on the Seward Peninsula, sorry. That became a homestead in 1907, and it had a few different owners. And then eventually it was deeded over to the Catholic Church for an eventual mission. And that mission ended up becoming an orphanage instead because of the 1918 to 1919 Spanish flu epidemic or pandemic that happened that many are familiar with. And almost the entire village of Mary's Igloo perished due to that Spanish flu pandemic, and all of the children ended up moving and living at Pilgrim Hot Springs Mission Orphanage. So the orphanage was active from 1919 roundabout through 1941. And then after that, it was taken over by various caretakers throughout the years. In 1977, it was added to the National Register of Historic Places. More recent years, 2009, the Catholic Church went bankrupt, and this 320-acre parcel was put up for sale. And that's when Unatuk formed to buy back this land and keep it in perpetuity for the people of the region. Bering Straits Native Corporation was the sole co-manager of the property. They led some very extensive geothermal exploration on site with Alaska Center for Energy and Power. There were also some test gardens, local produce done. And more recently, 2020, Coeric, we became a co-manager alongside Bering Straits Native Corporation. So that's just a brief history. You can read a lot more. If you Google Pilgrim Hot Springs, you'll find many things online and many stories. Anama, do you want to share it here?
Yep, so this is an overview of part of the property. In the lower right-hand corner, you'll see the test gardens that were done there between 2016 and 2018. It was an experimental garden to see how things would grow, and this was managed under Bering Straits. In the middle of the picture, you'll see the Mission Complex, which is really a historical site at this point. It's the buildings are pretty dilapidated and boarded up. You know, they're from 1920 to 1940, and so they definitely are not able to be in use at this time, but hopefully we'll be able to do some renovation on those buildings and revive them and be able to use them. Over on the left-hand side, in the upper left-hand corner, you'll see where Amanda's circling right now. That is the hot springs, the current hot springs pool and changing room. And so over on that side is more of the recreational side where visitors come and enjoy the big pool there and the hot springs. And there's other hot springs nearby the church, but they've kind of been flooded out. And so we need to do some work on those pools before they're able to be utilized again as bathing pools.
So there's been a lot of agricultural activity at Pilgrim Hot Springs in the past century. And these are just some historical photos courtesy of Anchorage Museum. There's lots of great photos out there where you can see just, you know, how bountiful the crops were in the past. During the orphanage time, there were many agricultural activities, and vegetables were flown into Nome from the orphanage site, and just a lot of activity happening in those early 1900s. And then caretakers throughout the years also had a lot of agriculture activities going on, and there was livestock and many different efforts taking place out at the site.
Yep, and as Amanda was saying, in the past, there's been a lot of big agriculture, but for a while there was a lull. And in 2016, Bering Straits, the managing partner of Unatuk, got a USDA grant to do a test garden there. And so it was kind of the first activity that had happened at Pilgrim Hot Springs for a long time. And they were able to get the Pilgrim Produce Whole Farm Plan written by Calypso Farm and Ecology Center. That gave us an idea of what kind of crops to grow, you know, how to go about with the soil and the water. We'd like to update that because it's been several years now, but that gave us kind of a good plan to look at. And then the middle picture, you can see Rob Benson there. He was running the Bering Straits. He was running Pilgrim Hot Springs through Bering Straits, and he's got a big wheelbarrow of his cabbages there. So what we learned is that, you know, this place has this warm, rich soil, and we were able to grow a lot of really incredible food there. In the picture on the right, you can see some youth groups would come out and spend some time out there helping to plant things and helping to harvest. And that was a really great collaboration between one of the Nome-based youth groups and Pilgrim Hot Springs. And what ended up happening is that we didn't have a clear management plan at that time, and there was nobody really to plan. And nobody really had solid agricultural skills. So the test garden, you know, proved that the soil was fertile and that this never freezes out there. I mean, we're in the Arctic and the ground doesn't freeze out there because of the geothermal waters underneath. And we know that the potential is there, but we just didn't have the experts, the farming experts, to utilize the land to its potential. And so that program, that gardening program, it just lasted from 2016 to 2018, and then it doors on it at that point. And so we haven't done anything out there with the garden for the last several years, last few years.
Right, and I do want to mention this is more of a discussion presentation, so we only have a few more slides, and then we're going to have a brainstorming session kind of at the end where we would love all your input. So I should have said that in the very beginning, but I'll explain quick about the renewable energy, which is more my realm. I'm not an agricultural person, which is why I'm here to ask all of your expert advice. But the geothermal resource is very important for possible agricultural activities, I believe, because the ground is warm, like Anama was saying, and it doesn't freeze. And we have this resource that we're looking to hopefully expand upon and develop for on-site infrastructure. So there's many ways that we could use this resource for agricultural benefit. So just acknowledge that, and you weren't aware of the renewable energy possibilities out there. I wanted to mention it. So just to go over our current strategy here, and I hope everyone can still hear me. It's saying my internet is unstable. So, just as a summary, our goal is to revive and transform this amazing historical site and to develop Inutuk's organizational structure into a sustainable business that incorporates cultural values and supports regional economic development opportunities, including renewable energy, health and wellness, ecotourism, sustainable agriculture, and food security initiatives. So, we're looking at the bigger picture, something that can help the entire region. Because of all the organizations that own Inutuk, it really does represent the entire Bering Strait region. And, this year when we started, we were really just focused on safety, security, access, site improvements. We had to get the road fixed, just those simple things this year. So we didn't touch anything agricultural related. But as soon as early next year, when we open up for the summer season, we'll already be having some revenue coming in for tourism, recreation, possible events. And we have some overnight lodging possibilities now, which are going to be great, to help sustain the business. But focusing on this agricultural piece in that whole farm plan that was written in 2017 with the help of Calypso Farms, the vision was written as we envision an exemplary sustainable agricultural project at Pilgrim Hot Springs, which improves the food security, economy, and quality of life in the Bering Strait region. So, that is a working vision, but I think it's a really great overview of what we're working towards. And this little graphic on the left I put together, this is kind of the balls that are always in my head going around as I'm focusing on, I want to gather all the stories from Pilgrim Hot Springs, the culture, the history. There's this clean energy geothermal aspect. There's the food security aspect with the agriculture, and there's this ecotourism, which could be that profit coming in that sustains the business. So there's all those different aspects. So, and to continue what Anama was saying before, we just haven't done anything. There hasn't been any agriculture out there since 2018. And at this point, we're focusing on possibly planting a small educational garden for next year. I'm looking at opportunities with different grants for that. We applied for the USDA 2501 program. And we're going to be applying for one of the Western SARE, S-A-R-E, I'm not sure how anyone says the acronym there, but that program as well. So I'm looking at different grants just to throw it out there and say I'm starting to look at a few things, but I'm here to ask for your help because we're not experts. I'm not an expert. So Anama, I'll let you take over this brainstorming session.
Yeah, so Amanda and I wanted to share some of the ideas that we have moving forward with you, and in hopes that maybe it would spark you to help us understand how we can connect to resources or network with the right people, to help answer some of the questions that we have about these challenges that we're facing. So just reading off this list, we think that we need agricultural experts to train our staff and others in our region. And by others in our region, I mean some of the other communities in this region, the villages that that are in the region outside of Nome. Leadership there, tribal leadership, have informed us that some of them would like their own community gardens. You know, I think 2020 was really scary for a lot of people when transportation was bogged down, and you know, we saw the price of meat skyrocket, and a lot of the store-bought foods that were hard to get in on the road system were impossible to get out here in the bush. Stuff just didn't make it out this way. And though so many people in our villages do subsistence hunting and fishing, a lot of their, you know, a lot of the food they get is store-bought. And so it was pretty threatening to people to not be able to have that access. And so when we say others in our region, we want to connect with people in all over our region and teaching and learning about agriculture. So we want to take advantage of that. So next one, a better understanding of how Pilgrim can play a part in indigenous food sovereignty in our region. We want to be able to do things like host, you know, sessions on site about indigenous food systems and connecting to what we can offer there at Pilgrim. Wildlife experts to help control beaver population. The beavers are really taking over the area around Pilgrim, and so flooding has been happening. And you know, we've talked to Fish and Game, we've talked to locals, and we're just we really need help with controlling beavers. But it's probably a problem everywhere, and I don't know that anybody's come up with any solutions for it. But if you know of any, please let us know. Business planning experts to guide us towards a sustainable business model that returns for our region. Consistent communication with regional entities, stakeholders, and community members so we can address their needs, like what produce they would buy and what they would need. Regional distribution model for produce, including efficient transportation and delivery to village stores, local distribution model for Nome-based customers, and you know, ultimately agriculture, development, equipment, supplies, and staff, etc. And sorry to just read all that text, but it's kind of a lot of text, and I didn't think people would be able to just, you know, read it while listening. So anyway, we wanted to put this picture up, which has our emails and our pilgrimhotsprings.com address. We're on Instagram and Facebook. But again, up to these questions here and these ideas that we have for moving forward, we kind of just wanted to see if anybody wanted to unmute their phone and give us some ideas. Or
yeah, and Anama, I see in the chat here that Melissa, is it Chlupak? I hope I said it right. Asked, oh yeah, do you want to talk about what you wrote in the chat?
Sure. Well, the first thing is that Annabelle Alvite from Kotzebue is a great contact. I think she had a presentation earlier today and has built a community garden, and it has been really dedicated with it, very patient. It's taken time, but definitely a great contact there. And then in terms of the beavers, I don't know, but I thought beavers were a traditional food, and it's possible that you could cull them and donate them to Quiana Care. I don't know if the hospital has started a traditional foods program yet, but I know Luana here had a policy for a traditional foods donation program.
That is a really great idea. Thank you so much. Yeah, I saw Annabelle's part of her presentation earlier, so that's a great suggestion. We should definitely reach out to her. Anama, you have quite a few contacts in Kotzebue as well. So
Yeah, I know Annabelle. Yep. And I missed her presentation because I was watching one of the other things, but that's a great idea, and we will get in touch with her. Thank you.
yeah, and on the
And I
beavers,
love the idea of donating to Koyanakir. I wouldn't say beavers are a traditional food around here, but people sure like their skins for making clothing. And I like the idea of donating food to Koyanakir and that connection. That's a great idea. Thank you.
And her presentation was recorded, so hopefully we'll have that in the near future for you to watch since you missed it.
Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, I see Jerica Hedgers wrote funding is always the biggest challenge. I agree. I feel like right now all I'm doing is hunting grants. I feel like a grant hunter. I've just been, churning them out and writing them for all these different things going on and hoping maybe if I have a 10% success rate, we'll have some funding for next year. So, if you can think of any ideas for funding opportunities, I would love for anyone to put it in chat or email me, or it'd be great. Any other questions or ideas or comments?
I wanted to pitch in and just say that thank you for this presentation. I didn't even know that Pilgrim Hot Springs existed before this now, so I was really excited to hear that you guys exist, and we're also actually actively pursuing like an agricultural program, because I think that hot springs should be agricultural mecca, so to speak, because especially up here, because they can extend the growing season so long. And obviously you guys are trying to get funding, and you would need funding for something like a greenhouse. But I was curious if you guys were aware of the greenhouse that is in Manly. They have like a steel frame greenhouse, and I think it's double wrapped with like UV protectant plastic that doesn't need to be replaced very often at all. I think it's been there for many years. And they have grapes and tropical plants growing in that greenhouse. And all they have is 4 tubs filled with the hot water that people come in and soak in. So they aren't even supplementing with extra electricity. They're not generating electricity to create light, to keep like a certain, maybe if someone wanted to grow, mangoes or, something crazy up here, you would at least need to put light on those plants. But other plants, like these other tropical plants like grapes, they get two crops of grapes, of 3 different varieties of grapes per year. And they're these old, like 25-year-old grapevines. And I think the possibilities, and that's something that was a project back when the darts were alive, and Chuck Dart planted those. And they're not really being actively maintained anymore, but they're still just like producing like crazy, and the soil in there is super healthy. So I wonder, if we could just get the initial synergy going, you guys could really potentially create an amazing place. And as far as funding, I think it'll be tough to try to balance doing agritourism without making it too, how to put it nicely, like commercial, but still maintain some of the traditional integrity of the place. So I'm super happy, and I would love to help you guys in any way I can. I would love to come visit.
So is your name Callan or Kaylin?
It's Callan, thank you.
Callan, okay, yeah, and our emails are right here on the screen, but thanks for that. And I've been to Manly Hot Springs, and you're right, it's such a magical place, and we've often thought about doing that too, and putting some hot tubs inside a greenhouse so that we could have a variety of things that we wouldn't be able to grow outside or in high tunnels. And I think one thing we didn't really clarify too much is that, you know, we're hoping at least to get started as we're thinking about food security for our region. We're hoping to not like diversify too much and have hundreds of different types of foods that we're growing, but we really want to hone in on what do people in our villages want? What will they use and what stores for a long time? What stores really well? And we're guessing that it's probably going to be stuff that people use in their, you know, caribou soups and, you know, stuff like that, which would be like root crops. And instead of doing things that, you know, people wouldn't use as much or that go bad quickly, we're just really wanting to kind of get down to not doing the agro tourism type of thing, but having this special place that can contribute to food security in our region, and then tourism on the other side of it, you know, for the hot springs. So just kind of breaking those two kinds of things out at first, but we'd love to be in touch with you and get any other ideas. So thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you so much. And thank you everyone here in the chat. I'm looking and yeah, I love that Sitka Local Foods Network. Thank you so much. And Darren asked about the Calypso farm plan being implemented. And, you know, in reality, you know, they tried to implement that plan and started on it in the 2016 through 2018 effort. And there just wasn't, you know, we never had a manager, you know, it didn't get going. So no, you know, it isn't being implemented right now. And that's what we're trying to do. So, you know, to take that whole farm plan and maybe update it a little bit so it's more for today, and run with those ideas, because they had so many great ideas and did so much work. So, you know, we don't have to reinvent the wheel totally on that. We just want to maybe fine tune things a little bit and find out just how to get started. Chena Hot Springs. Oh yeah, that's another great contact. You know, not only for what their agricultural is doing, but their geothermal resource as well. You know, so the power they're creating from their geothermal resource could be very similar to what we could do at Pilgrim, because we do have a low temperature geothermal resource. It's a little bit hotter than Chena, but around the same properties. Beaver recipe. Oh, awesome.
And we are, yeah, thank you for that. And we are working with ACEP right now, Alaska Center for Energy and Power, to look at a low temperature geothermal power plant. And so, and both Amanda and I have been part of the ARENA program. And so when I was part of the ARENA program in 2017 and was able to visit Chena Hot Springs in that light and be able to see their gardens there, that was super inspiring, in their restaurant. And yeah, Amanda and I would like to go there and check that out together. And thanks for the beaver recipe.
Yeah, that's awesome. How are we on time? I think we're going over, so I hope we're not cutting into anybody's. You can stop
No,
sharing.
actually, there will be a 15, well, now only about a 10-minute break between this session 5C and the next session 6C. So why don't you just continue chatting, and you free space.
Cool. I'll share my video here and so everyone can see me. Hi. Yeah, we'll have to try that. There's so many beavers out there in Amma. We could have like a, you know, we talked about having like a beaver derby and having people sign up for different slots and to do some subsistence harvesting. We were thinking just the pelts, but if it can also be used for food, that's even better.
There's not too much meat on beavers. I've skinned them out and they're like a giant rodent. But I have tried it before. It's very good.
Yeah, they're very innovative with their dams, and they're just, I mean, they're flooding the property. So it is a really big issue for us because they can destroy, you know, those agricultural lands we have and contaminate the waters. And, you know, you don't want to be swimming in the pools if they're contaminated by the beavers. So it's just, it is a big issue. And we're looking at different strategies to mitigate that, but really we just need to find a good way to harvest and control and keep at it. Yeah, Amy, there is road access. So there's a 60-mile road, or it's longer than that. It goes past Pilgrim, but it's about 53 miles on the highway from Nome up to Pilgrim Hot Springs. It's not plowed year round, but you can drive straight up there. And then there's a 7-mile road that's kind of adventurous that goes down into Pilgrim. Oh, NRCS. Great. Thank you so much, Nicole. And Calypso's farm plan, I think, can we share that, Anama? The farm plan?
So, Sharon, can we get your email? And I wanted to ask Helen what the woofing program is. Or was that a joke?
So I'm not sure if I spelled the acronym correctly, but it stands for it's like a worldwide organization of organic farmers. Apparently, anybody can travel around the world and work on this network of organic farms, and the agreement generally is something along the lines of, you work for us, but we feed you and let you live here for free. And as far as generating a lot of food for the community, that might be a good way to not only give an opportunity for people to travel up there and produce, but also actually not have to pay them.
That sounds like something we need to look into. Oh, wow. Okay, and thank you, Sharon. Yeah, we can send you that plan.
I had a question. I thought I heard that there's a gentleman up in Fairbanks who's going to try to tap into I don't know if it's, someone mentioned Manly Hot Springs, I'm not familiar, but is there Nana Hot Springs like west of Fairbanks? Does anyone know? But anyways, he's thinking of developing an agricultural facility there with greenhouses and, of course, clean energy from the ground. I think the best person to contact would be Melissa Sykes. She's on the Alaska Food Policy Council. She's also at the university. And I'm blanking on what she was ag in the classroom, but she's really in tune with things that are going on. And actually, she runs the Interior Alaska Food Network, which is a new organization over the last few years that sprung out of the Alaska Food Policy Council as a local food policy group. So I think if you connect the dots between individuals who want to tap, you've already mentioned. See, I'm already blanking again. The hot springs Chena Hot Springs, of course. So you got Chena, Manly, Nanana, Pilgrim, and if you can tie in anything with any of the geophysical people who want to, if they're looking for alternative energies, which I think everyone is going into, they could probably tap into Department of Energy big grants, and then the application is that, well, we want to use the energy to feed people. And I think that's just win-win-win. So they could put in like a $5 million grant and they can cut you like $100,000. We're talking real dough. So, very serious because, all you have to do is look at Iceland. Iceland is totally geothermal and hydrogen. And so they don't even have to import oil. So there are a lot of great examples out there. And we're all here to help connect the dots and push it forward. So with that, I think we got 5 minutes to go to next session. So I think I kind of trumped everybody. Sorry about the word, but let's take a break here and reconvene in 5 minutes if anyone wants to hear the last session for today. Talks. This will be session 6C. Thank you, Amanda and Nama. Those are great presentations. I try to put some of the links for Queric and Pilgrim Hot Springs, and I'm so happy that all these organizations have a web presence. I mean, I'm in Kodiak. I've never been to Pilgrim Hot Springs. I've been to Nome a little bit, but the more information you put out there, the more hits you'll get on those sites, and then I think you'll be able to reach out to those who have the wherewithal, either financially or technologically or socially, the whole bit. So thank you very much for your presentation. It was very well done.
Thank you. Thanks for all these great suggestions.
Yeah, thank you everyone so much. This is so great. And the conference has been awesome. And I saw Jerica. Yeah, if you want to have the plan, can you send me an email and I'll reply to you and I can send it? You got our emails. Thanks everyone.